Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great Thanksgiving and getting in some time to relax. Between preparations of my own and things that I have to get done, including getting this video blog posted, it's a very busy time. So I'm just going to jump right into the topic of discussion. So in doing research, I visited my own state board's website, which is the Ohio Counselor, Social Worker, and Marriage and Family Therapist Board, and I found the section that listed disciplinary actions taken by the board. The way it was set up on the website was a list of the licensee's name and his or her license number right next to it, which you could then click on, and it would direct you to an official Ohio legal document called a consent agreement. And in that document, it spelled out many of the facts of the licensee, such as which agency they worked for, when they got their license, and which codes or laws that they had broken, and a brief description of the violation itself. I also noticed when I compared Ohio's website to a few select other state websites, just because I was curious, they all tend to offer different amounts of information and what is offered, and sometimes you even have to have an account set up to access that information. Another thing I noticed was that some of the other state websites only offered the last 90 days worth of disciplinary actions, or sometimes only from 2019. Whereas when I was browsing Ohio's website, I found documented violations that fell into quite a long period of time. For instance, the oldest one that I found was from 1997. My personal reaction as I was going through the list of all the violations were, number one, that there were quite a few of them, but that could have been due to the fact that there was quite a backlog of all the violations over the years. And number two, that the types of violations ranged all over the place. Some were a bit more disturbing, such as intimate touching with minors, but thankfully those were pretty few in number. However, the most common violation that I ran across was usually labeled blurred professional boundaries, or something very similar. And some examples of this were creating multiple relationships with former clients, exchanged gifts, cards, and platonic correspondence, entering into a personal relationship, sending offensive and explicit videos to clients, buying over-the-counter medication for a minor client, and allowing a client to live in the basement of the counselor at their private residence for approximately 1 year. Other common infractions were inability to prove continuing education requirements, dual relationships, and treating below standard of care. For the other part of the blog, in discussing counselor impairment, I found that to be such an important and relevant topic. As Bradley, Wisenhunt, Adamson, and Kress 2013 mentioned, counselors spend a majority of their time and their energy taking care of others, but all too often they end up neglecting their own needs. So really, it's an ongoing challenge for many counselors. Of course, one of the consequences of self-care neglect is counselor impairment, and this is the consequence that the ACA Code of Ethics addresses. In Standard C.2.G, the Code of Ethics urges counselors to carefully pay attention to signs of physical and mental concerns. A counselor is also to search for support if the issues reach the level of impairment, and if necessary, they need to reduce or even eliminate their services. The article that I read by Bradley, Wisenhunt, Adamson, and Kress 2013 that I mentioned just a little bit ago goes into a lot of detail about creative approaches to counselor self-care, which includes art, scrapbooking, using metaphors and imagery to create a self-care plan, and solution-focused brief therapy techniques. So my question is, should state boards make self-care a requirement much like they do for continuing education? This would mean proof and documentation might be necessary to ensure that self-care was participated in, but I think in the long run, it has a great potential to be beneficial for everyone involved. Thank you for listening. Bye.